Okay, so you've decided you want to take a trip. That moment hits, and suddenly it's this mix, isn't it? You got the excitement, the wanderlust, but then, oh, the planning, the logistics, it can feel a bit daunting.
Oh, absolutely. That tension is so real. And honestly, it's where a lot of potentially amazing trips just fizzle out. People get bogged down in the research.
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission today isn't just to rehash generic travel tips. We want to give you a really efficient blueprint. We've looked at the sources and we've distilled it down to 8 core steps.
8 steps, okay.
Yeah, 8 actionable steps. Think of it like a universal framework. The goal is to take trip planning from this huge, maybe overwhelming thing into something streamlined, optimized even.
I like optimize. So this is the 8-step blueprint for stress-free travel planning, and it works for anything, like a big overseas trip or just, I don't know, a weekend away.
That's the idea. Whether it's 2 weeks in Japan or 2 days in the next state over, it's about being deliberate upfront. So you actually earn the right to be spontaneous when you're there.
Okay, let's do it. Where do we start?
Right. Let's jump in. We begin by laying the foundation.
All right. Step 1. This feels like the fun part. Choose your destination. Is this purely about dreaming, like
Mm.
beach, mountains, big city, or do we need to be practical right away?
Well, the sources say start with the dream, definitely. But then, almost immediately, analyze the why behind it. What's driving that choice?
Okay.
Is it the weather you're after, warm versus cold? Are you interested in, say, ancient ruins versus, like, super modern skyscrapers? Or is there a really specific goal?
Like seeing a particular landmark.
Exactly. If your absolute must-do is seeing the Eiffel Tower in Paris, well, that decision shapes everything else that follows. You can't really set dates or a budget properly until you know where you're aiming.
That makes total sense. You pick the big picture first, then you start adding the constraints. Okay, so destination locked. What's next? Step 2.
Step 2, decide on the dates. Seems simple, right? Just pick some days off the calendar.
Uh-huh. But I suspect it's trickier.
Well, yeah, the practical side hits hard here. First, obviously, the weather. You don't want to plan a beach trip and find out it's monsoon season.
Right. Need the swimsuit, not the parka.
Precisely. But beyond climate, this is where financial optimization really kicks in. We all know summer holidays, Christmas break,
Mm.
those peak times mean peak prices for flights, for hotels.
Oh, yeah. Everything costs more.
But the real insight from the sources is about leveraging the shoulder season.
The shoulder season. Okay, explain that a bit more.
It's those periods just before or just after the main tourist rush. So for Europe, maybe think late April, early May, or mid to late September, even early October in some places.
Ah, okay, so fewer crowds.
Fewer crowds, usually much better prices, and often the weather is still really pleasant, sometimes even better than the peak summer heat.
That's a smart tip.
It really is. Traveling strategically in the off-season, or even better, the shoulder season, is probably the single most practical way the sources point to for saving significant money without really sacrificing the experience quality.
So just shifting your 2-week vacation from, say, August 1st to September 15th could potentially save you hundreds, just like that.
Easily. It's about being intentional with timing. Okay, so we've got the where and the when sorted. Now we get into the real nuts and bolts, the logistics.
Which brings us to step 3, set your budget. Okay, this is often the sticking point, isn't it? The money part.
It can be, but it's absolutely crucial. This step acts like a guardrail for pretty much every decision that comes next. It's where you shift from being the dreamer to being the project manager of your trip.
But should I figure out flight costs first, then set the budget? Or do I need to say, okay, I have X amount to spend, and then see what fits? Which comes first?
That's a really good question. The sources lean towards defining your limit first. Decide if this is going to be a splurge or if you're aiming for something more budget-friendly.
Okay.
Let's say you set a limit, maybe $2,000 for the whole trip. That number immediately forces you to make certain choices when you get to booking transport and accommodation. If you aim higher, obviously you have more options.
So the budget kind of dictates the style of travel, like fancy hotel versus a hostel or fine dining versus street food.
Exactly that. It frames the quality and the type of experiences you'll be looking for in the later steps.
And should you just have one big number? Or is it better to break it down early on, like X for flights, Y for hotels, Z for food?
Breaking it down is definitely more efficient. The sources suggest thinking in percentages, roughly. Maybe 50% for your big fixed costs, flights, trains, accommodation. Then perhaps 30% for your daily spending, food, activities, local transport.
Okay, that's 80%. What about the rest?
And this is key, a non-negotiable 20% buffer. You absolutely need a cushion for unexpected things. Maybe a taxi because the bus isn't running. Maybe you see a souvenir you have to have. Maybe, heaven forbid, a minor medical thing.
Right, the just in case fund.
Exactly. Defining the budget and those categories protects the trip financially. It prevents that horrible feeling of running out of money halfway through.
Okay, super practical. Budget set. Now we can actually start spending it. Step 4. Book your transportation. This feels like a big one. Fly, train, bus, drive. So many options.
It is often the biggest single expense, yeah. And this is where a lot of stress can creep in. The main advice usually is buy early, especially for flights.
Right. But how early is early? Is there a magic window?
Actually, yes. The sources suggest there often is. For international flights specifically, booking maybe 6 to 8 weeks before you travel often hits a sweet spot.
Oh, interesting. Not like 6 months ahead.
Sometimes, booking too far in advance can actually be more expensive. Airlines haven't necessarily optimized their pricing that far out. So 6 to 8 weeks seems to be a good target for balancing availability and cost. Obviously, this varies, but it's a good rule of thumb.
That's a solid takeaway. Okay, what about driving versus flying, say for a domestic trip?
Yeah, that requires a proper comparison. Driving obviously saves the airfare itself, but you absolutely have to factor in the total cost.
Meaning gas.
Gas, yes. Tolls, those can be surprisingly high. And parking, especially if you're staying in a city center, hotel parking can be really expensive.
Good point. Sometimes the savings from driving get eaten up pretty fast.
They really can. You have to calculate it out. Sometimes, believe it or not, a budget airline flight, even with baggage fees, can end up being cheaper or comparable once you add up, say, 3 or 4 days worth of gas and tolls for a long drive.
So do the math. Don't just assume driving is cheaper.
Never assume. Check the prices for everything. And yeah, watch out for those budget airline baggage fees. They can turn a cheap ticket into an expensive one real quick if you're not careful.
Okay, transportation booked. That feels like a major hurdle cleared. Now, step 5. Book accommodation. Where are we going to sleep?
Right. And again, think beyond just hotel. Especially if you're traveling with family or maybe a group of friends, renting an apartment or even a small house can be a fantastic option.
More space, definitely.
More space, yes, but the real game changer, according to the sources, the kitchen.
Ah, the kitchen. The secret weapon of budget travel.
It absolutely is. Think about it. If you can just cook breakfast yourself each morning, maybe even pack a lunch, or cook a simple dinner a few nights.
You save a ton on eating out.
A ton.
Yeah.
You could realistically cut your food budget by 30, maybe even 40%.
Yeah.
This comes up again and again in the sources as a major lever for making trips more affordable.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay, besides having a kitchen, what else is key for accommodation? Location.
Location is paramount, definitely. But it's a trade-off, isn't it? Do you pay a premium to be right in the heart of the city center, steps away from the main sites? Or do you find a place that's maybe a little further out, potentially cheaper, but has really excellent, easy access to public transport, a metro stop right outside your door, for instance?
Right, so it's about convenience versus cost.
Exactly. It impacts your budget, how much time you spend getting places each day, and just your overall daily experience. Worth thinking through carefully.
Okay, makes sense. So we've built the whole skeleton.
Right.
Where, when, budget, how we get there, where we stay. Now for the really fun part.
Now for the payoff. Step
Yeah.
6, plan your activities. This is where you get to dive into the specifics of what you actually want to do.
Yes. Researching museums, finding cool neighborhoods, looking up hiking trails, figuring out where to get the best local food.
Spotting tours that look interesting, checking if there are any concerts or special events happening while you're there. Yeah, this is the exciting bit.
But wait, we've been talking about planning and structure this whole time. Doesn't planning step 6, the fun stuff, risk making it? Well, Not fun. Too rigid.
That is the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you plan steps 1 through 5 down to the last detail, do you schedule every single minute of your actual trip?
Yeah. Like Tuesday, 9 a.m. museum, 11 a.m. coffee, 1 p.m. famous bridge. It sounds exhausting and leaves no room for just wandering.
Exactly. And the sources are very clear on this. The advice is strongly towards what you might call planned spontaneity.
Plan spontaneity. Okay, how does that work?
It means you should identify maybe 2 or 3 key anchor activities or sites per destination. The absolute must-sees, the museum you've dreamed of visiting, that specific hike, book those if necessary.
Okay, the big ticket items.
Right. But then, and this is crucial, deliberately leave large chunks of your time, maybe even 50%, completely unscheduled.
Ah, okay. Build in the empty space.
Yes. That's the space for serendipity. For wandering down an interesting-looking side street, for deciding to spend an extra hour at a cafe just people watching, for following up on a tip you got from a local. You need that flexibility.
Yeah.
Don't plan every single minute.
Flexibility is the key. Got it. Plan the anchors. Leave room to roam. Okay, activities loosely planned. We're getting close to departure now. Step 7.
Step 7. Pack your bags and prepare documents. The final checks.
Right. Obvious stuff like check the weather again so you know if it's definitely shorts or maybe you need that jacket after all. Don't forget your toothbrush.
Yeah, the basics. But this step, according to the sources, is also about crucial last-minute financial and safety optimization.
Okay, beyond just packing clothes, what kind of optimization?
Well, first, documents, passport, ID card, visas if needed. Make sure they're valid, make copies physical and digital. Store the digital copies securely online, somewhere you can access them if the originals get lost or stolen.
Good idea. Cloud storage or email them to yourself.
Exactly. Then, the financial prep. This is where people often slip up. The most common thing, getting your credit card blocked.
Oh no. Nightmare scenario.
It really is. The absolute top tip here is always tell your bank and credit card companies your travel dates and destinations before you leave.
Why is that so important?
Because if they suddenly see a transaction pop up from, say, Bangkok or Rome, and you haven't told them you're traveling, their fraud systems might automatically flag it as suspicious and block your card.
Leaving you stranded without access to funds.
Precisely. A quick phone call or online notification beforehand prevents a potentially massive headache. It's such a simple step, but vital.
Okay. Critical advice. Notify the bank. What else?
Check on local currency needs. While cards are widely accepted in many places, you'll often still need a bit of cash for small things, tips. Maybe street food vendors, small market purchases, some public transport. Get a small amount before you go or at the airport when you arrive.
Right. Don't assume you can use a card for absolutely everything.
Better safe than sorry. So, docs ready, bank notified, some local cash sorted, bags packed. You're basically ready.
Which brings us, finally, to step 8. The best step.
Absolutely the simplest and hopefully the best step. Enjoy your trip.
Ah, after all that plan.
Exactly. This is the culmination. All that upfront work, the budgeting, the booking, the prep, is designed to make this step as smooth and stress-free as possible. So you can actually relax, soak it all in, take loads of pictures, make those amazing memories. If you do the first 7 steps right, step 8 should feel easy.
That's the goal. Okay, so recapping the whole process. Choose destination, decide dates, set budget, book transportation, book accommodation, plan activities, pack and prepare docs, and finally, enjoy.
That's the 8-step blueprint.
Looking back at it, what really stands out is how breaking down this potentially huge, overwhelming task, planning a trip into these smaller, manageable steps, just makes the whole thing feel less stressful, right?
Absolutely. It turns a giant mountain into a series of small, climbable hills. It's really a template for tackling almost any large project, not just travel.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the framework is so versatile. It works, like we said, for that huge international adventure, but honestly, you can apply the same logic even to just planning a day trip to a nearby city you haven't visited before. Where are we going? When? What's the budget for lunch and gas? How are we getting there? What do we want to see?
Huh. Yeah, you're right. It scales down perfectly. It proves the value of just being organized.
It does.
Yeah.
And The outcome is that a planned traveler tends to be a relaxed traveler and ultimately a happier traveler.
And there's another benefit that the sources highlight, especially for maybe language learners listening. It's about practical language use.
Oh, definitely. Planning and taking a trip is this fantastic real-world language lab. It's a win-win.
How so?
Well, think about it. As soon as you start planning, you're engaging with functional vocabulary.
Yeah,
Airport ticket, hotel, booking, map, train station, restaurant, museum, beach. The list goes on.
true. You're seeing and using these words in context.
And then when you're actually on the trip, you have to use practical phrases constantly. How much does this cost? Where's the bathroom? Can I have the bill, please? What time does the museum open?
Yeah, basic survival communication.
Exactly. You're actively testing your language skills in a low-stakes but necessary environment. You need to buy that train ticket. You need to order that coffee.
And the sources mention that even if you make mistakes, fumble your words a bit, it's usually okay.
Generally, yes. People are often patient, especially if they see you're making an effort. Getting the grammar perfect isn't the point. Communicating your need is the point. And even successfully managing a simple interaction, like asking for directions and understanding the answer.
That feels like a huge victory.
It is a huge victory. It builds incredible confidence. Travel is this real-life test. And when you navigate it successfully, booking things, getting around, communicating basic needs, you prove to yourself that you can manage complex situations.
So it's not just about the trip itself, it's about building organizational skills and communication confidence at the same time.
That's a great way to put it. The organization leads to the comfort and lack of stress. The necessity of the situation forces the language practice. And the successful outcome, enjoying the trip, reinforces that feeling of competence. It's powerful stuff.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. From the big picture dream of picking a place all the way down to the nitty-gritty of telling your bank you're leaving town.
Mm-hmm.
The key takeaway really seems to be that systematic planning isn't about removing spontaneity, it's about enabling it by handling the stressful parts up front. It builds excitement, doesn't it? Looking at maps, pictures of where you're going, that's part of the fun.
It absolutely is. Planning is really the first stage of the adventure itself. And thinking about that confidence boost we just discussed, if applying this kind of systematic 8-step structure to something as logistically complex as planning international travel can build such tangible skills and self-assurance, well, it raises a really interesting question for you, the listener, doesn't it? What other complex goal in your life? Maybe something totally unrelated to travel, like, I don't know, learning a new skill, tackling a big project at work, maybe even starting a fitness routine. What complex thing could you successfully achieve by applying this same kind of methodical 8-step planning approach?
That is a fantastic question to ponder. Break it down, plan the steps, build the confidence. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into making travel planning smoother and hopefully a lot more efficient.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We hope this helps you plan and enjoy your next adventure. Until next time, happy optimizing.